Hello, my name is Jason JROCK Houston, and tonight we're speaking with Steavie Peavey, the lead singer of a Marilyn Manson tribute band called Mechanical Manson. You guys are based out of Los Angeles. How you doing tonight, Steavie?
I'm doing good, Jason. How are you?
Yeah, I think I interviewed you once before for Chaotic Risk magazine. About you had an original band, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a band called Death Squad Demon Guns.
And is that band still going on?
That band is sort of on hiatus, you know. We're waiting for the music industry to kind of circle around, and when, you know, there's like an interest, you know, hey, why not? We'll do it. But, you know, if people don't want to hear it, why should I waste my time, you know, putting it out there?
Yeah, I hear you. Now, I think it's great that you're doing a Manson tribute. How long has the band been together?
Oh, we've been together about 2 years. We're all in a Rammstein tribute that was going for about a year before that. We're still doing that, but, you know, one day we were at the Rammstein rehearsal, and I don't know, someone I think broke into Beautiful People just for fun, and we all kind of just started going into it, even though most of us didn't know it, and we kind of looked at each other and said, we should totally do a Manson band, and everybody laughed because that sounded silly, but then like a couple weeks later, there we were, pretty much doing it, so it came together really quick.
Oh, how cool! Now, talk to me about how you first became a Manson fan.
Well, let's see. Back when Manson came out, like, you know, I heard Sweet Dreams like everyone else did.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. I wasn't a huge fan of the original, and not a lot of people have brought this up, but I kind of feel like Sweet Dreams is the way the Manson does it. The intro riff is kind of like a slowed down Crazy Train.
Yeah.
So that had my interest from the get go, and I thought it sounded pretty awesome. And then, you know, that Antichrist Superstar record came out, and then I remember like missing like 5 of his shows in a row for no good reason, and always going, you know, I really should have made. Why didn't I go to that show? And then, you know, I see him on YouTube. I mean, not then, but, you know, later on, I go, wow, that was totally awesome. I should have gone to all those shows. And then, you know, the fact that we do it is sort of at least kind of reliving like what I missed because for some reason I didn't go to those shows.
Yeah. Now, think about Manson. You know, you bring up the song "Sweet Dreams," and that's how a lot of people first became aware of him. You know, but Manson's a lot like Kiss in that, you know, there's a thing. He's got a certain look, obviously, with the makeup and everything. How much would you say it was the music or the look or a combination of both that kind of made you a fan?
I'd have to say the music. I mean, I think when I first heard of him, they had that kind of like weird Cat in the Hat stalky thing going on, which I thought was okay. But by the time like they, you know, Antichrist Superstar record came out, and then they were dressed, you know, he's dressing with kind of like a zombie mummy and all that kind of stuff. He had the pipe organ and the church, you know, tapestries behind him. I thought that was pretty badass. So, you know, the glam era, I thought it was okay. It was kind of a little wonky, and then, you know, but I generally thought like that whole, like, you know, like that whole image was pretty cool, but it wouldn't have won me over if I didn't like the music.
Yeah, I mean, Antichrist is probably my favorite, you know, Manson album. But I was curious, what do you think of some of his newer stuff?
You know, we have a strict rule that we don't cover anything past Golden Age of Grotesque, and well, I mean, we do Personal Jesus, but that's a cover. But basically, I don't know. I felt like all his albums were really solid, really strong, right until that album, and then everything after that, I haven't been a fan of at all. So we don't do anything from, you know, anything after like 2004. However, the new album came out, and I think it's actually pretty good. I wouldn't say it's his best, but we're like starting to cover Deep Six, which is the single off his most recent album. That's the only thing we do that's not like 10 years old.
Now, when you started, you know, putting this band together, Mechanical Manson, what was the hardest part for you as far as portraying Manson? Was it getting the look down, the outfits, trying to sing like him?
No, I'm sort of an expert at doing looks, so I knew I could do it. I mean, I was pretty sure I could do it. You know, not a lot of people. You know, I happen to be really tall and pretty skinny, not as skinny as he was back in the day, but still way skinnier than he is now. And so I was like, I knew I could do the look if I put my mind to it. So it was more like the singing, because you know he has that kind of creaky, you know, creaky rasp for the mellow bits, and then he has that really hard scream. And so I had to kind of learn how to scream like that. It's not the most intuitive thing, and kind of tore up my throat a little bit in the beginning, but a couple weeks in, kind of got the hang of it, and from then on, it was going pretty good.
You must be a very versatile vocalist in the sense that, I mean, you say you do the Rammstein tribute and the Manson tribute, totally different, types of bands. Do you find though that more people, or you're more fans from Manson as far as that material is more maybe popular, more well known?
Well, it's weird because Manson, if he's playing in America or something, he's probably playing a theater, maybe a large club. And Rammstein, the last 2 times they come to America, they play at the Honda Center and arenas all over America. So you think that Rammstein's a bigger band, and while there are like diehard fans all over California where we played, the Manson band has gotten a bit better response, I would say. Generally more people know who he is, even if people aren't the biggest diehard fans. Everybody knows what it is when you're doing it. If you're playing in a club and it's Rammstein, and you might be on a bill with a bunch of other bands like a Priest band and a Sabbath band and a Slayer band. Not everybody knows what we're doing up there. And that's not to say the Rammstein thing hasn't been successful. We played like the House of Blues, I think, 4 times in the past year and a half. And we've had great response at certain venues. But I would say the Manson one, more people understand it. More people are like, kind of captivated by it, maybe.
And let me ask you, like, when you're up on stage, you actually kind of get in your Marilyn Manson mode, or like when you put the makeup on, or you kind of feel like you're in that rock star mode, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. You got to, because it's not even, first off, you're not going to be able to sell it unless you're kind of feeling it. So when we're on stage, I mean, the whole band, we're kind of in that vibe, but especially me, it's like, I'll be doing whatever I'm going to do to get a reaction. And, you kind of, the coolest thing about it is, nothing's off limits. You can flop around on the ground while you're singing. You can, shove the guitarist in the middle of his solo or spit water at him, and our guitarist Ken's pretty cool. He doesn't mind when I do that too much. And then, poke at people's iPhones in the front row and or, start singing, go into the crowd, just dive into the crowd and be singing in the middle of all of them. And nothing's off limits. I mean, well, let's just say you don't want to do anything that gets people too pissed off. But it is pretty liberating, especially because everybody knows that it's because you're supposed to be Manson. They kind of give you slack and don't treat you like a psycho, which they probably would if you were just some idiot on stage singing the original Manson.
I mean, the amazing thing to me when I like listen to Manson in interviews, I mean, he's one of these characters, one of these musicians that people either love him or they hate him, and a lot of times he gets a lot of grief, but to me in a lot of interviews he comes across as very intelligent. I mean, if you just look at the name of his act, Marilyn Manson, he takes the name of one of the most loved actresses and the most hated murderers of our time, and that's obviously just to get people to say the name, to be talking about. So the guy's got talent as well as a certain level of intelligence.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because we don't do too many. Tribute band artists don't do the most interviews, which is fine.
Yeah.
Why not go to the real thing or something if you do an interview? But we did recently do an interview in makeup. We went to play a show, and it was a radio show which had a stage and stuff. And so we did the interview beforehand, and of course, since we were in full getup and everything, right now I'm talking to you kind of just like normally, but because I was in the full Manson getup, I'm sort of channeling like what how I think he would answer, or do his word inflections and stuff like that. So, and I didn't really prepare that; it just kind of slipped out. So that was kind of an interesting thing as well.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, Steavie, the reason I started doing these interviews with tribute bands especially, is because, a lot of people out there have misconceptions. They think, tribute bands are just failed musicians, can make it doing their own original thing. And, I found that out not to necessarily be the case. A lot of these musicians are very talented, but like you found out yourself, doing the original thing is a lot harder, especially these days. It might take you 5-6 years to, even have one hit. Whereas, like with what you're doing with Mechanical Manson, you kind of got a built-in audience. People, they come to a show, they kind of know what songs they're going to hear. They have an expectation of what they're going to get.
They do, but you also have to pull it off too. I think I sometimes you hear that thing where you're like, oh, tribute bands are so easy. I'm an artiste, and you guys are taking the easy way out. Well, in a sense, if it's so easy, I'd like to see someone else get up in a chorus that's a jock trap and a song. So if you want to try it, more power to you. If you don't, I don't mind. But the other thing is, it's just what I like right now, where performance with people who are really responding. So, it's like, people have an original band and that's fine, and there are some people with super successful original bands, but, I feel like, what's really going well with Mechanical Manson is we do some bigger shows, we've done the House of Blues, we've done some other cool size dates, but some of these real divey little bars, like in downtown LA, in places like Pomona, where we just like really, it's really packed, and the people are just like freaking out with the anticipation for when that curtain drops and stuff. And then they're just right up front. They're just super packed full of energy and stuff like that. And, if people want to be in a tribute band, that's fine. But one of the things that I really like about this, and Manson's not the biggest artist in the world. You can be in a Journey tribute, do a lot bigger, or a Rod Stewart, but you're not going to get that same kind of pandemonium. So that's why I like doing it. I feel like it's one of the funnest tribute bands to be in. It might not be the biggest, but it's got that energy. It's got that, I don't know, evilness might not be the right word, but just kind of, it's got that kind of creepy factor and stuff, and people seem to really be digging it.
Yeah, I like to call this like rock and roll theater. And what I mean by that is, like a show like what you guys are putting on is a lot more interesting than, you could just have 4 or 5 guys doing Manson covers in their jeans and t-shirt, but it would not have the same appeal. I mean, I would much rather see like a show like what you guys are doing. You look the part, you sound the part, you put on the makeup. It's the ultimate rock show, so to speak. And people might not be able to afford to go see the real Marilyn Manson, so you guys might be the next best thing.
Well, yeah, and the real Marilyn Manson, and trust me, he wrote all the songs, he created that whole thing. So it's not like we have anything even on that level, but we're kind of doing the earlier Manson vibe. Certain bands look different, in the earlier stage, and they look, than they do in the current stage. And so I think people like that kind of corset and jockstrap look. Then they can come see us, and of course, the real Manson will always be much bigger. But I think it's we're pretty meticulous with the look. We do our best to recreate it. We don't just kind of do this is sort of like it. It's probably good enough to pass. They want to get it exactly right. A lot like most kids tribute bands. They know that the bands that they have, they're going to be looking at every detail. The other thing is it's easy if you're playing a giant stage and you're playing at or even a nice club like the Whiskey or something like that, where there's going to be great PA and great lights and stuff. So we're playing some little tiny dive, and we've got to bring like the right amount of smoke and blinders and platforms and all that stuff. I don't care if there's a bug by this sign right above my head. We're going to transform that little stage into something that's going to, people are going to believe, the difference between when we played and what the stage looked like, right on the band before us, because we're going to bring enough stuff to like totally set that mood. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I bet that that you put on a good enough show that that you rock just as much as if you were playing for 50 people or 200 people.
Yeah, and sometimes more than that.
Yeah. And now I was going to ask you, there's another thing you got going for yourself is like there's thousands, thousands of tribute bands like to Led Zeppelin, AC/DC around the world, and there's just like Marilyn Manson. There's just like maybe 2 or 3 other in the area that I can think of off the top of my head. Why do you think there are not more Manson tributes right now?
Well, I think it's a couple things. It's like, if it's a band like Led Zeppelin or AC/DC, you're going to have more of them just because the band's so ubiquitous. But Manson, first off, it's not as huge of a thing. It's a little bit niche. But second off, you got to be the kind of guy who can pull it off. It isn't just about the singing. You got to be the kind of guy who wants to get up there and just really go for it and do it right. So I'm not sure there's any others in America that are active right now. There might be. But I know there's a bunch in Italy. I don't know what it is about Italy, but there's at least 3 or 4 that I've heard of. And they're all in Italy, maybe 1 or 2 in Brazil as well. So there's definitely like that kind of Southern European or South American vibe. They want to do Manson. And some of them are pretty good, look like they're pretty good at it. But not in America too much. And I do like that. I like being a little more unique than one of the 6 AC/DC tribute bands that are all in Southern California. So against that, I'm sure they're doing great, but it just doesn't feel quite as
I mean, there's a certain uniqueness, certain being more authentic what you're doing. That there's not 100 other Marilyn Manson tributes in the area. Must make it easier to get gigs too.
I think so. The Manson thing is I've been doing original bands for for a really, really long time, so I know a bunch of promoters, and I've been doing, I have a Ramones tribute, a Wrong Side tribute, so of course, we were able to hit the ground running with just connections and stuff, but it really took after that, maybe that first 6 months or that first year where, you start to build something where you might play in East LA, and because it went well, you get 3 other promoters in East LA now who all watch and stuff, and so we started reaching a little bit of that critical mass where, I'm not really, picking up the phone and trying to twist a bunch of arms on it. People are just, the word is kind of out there. I got bookers calling me, I got my agent calling me, and it's keeping us pretty busy with some pretty fun shows. So I'm really happy with kind of where we're at right now.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Now, going back to when you first, first put the band together, I was curious. Do you remember how you felt the first time you put the makeup on, or got in the costume? And I mean, how long did it take you to get to the point where you're comfortable in your ability to get the look down?
It's funny. I think I had a wig because I was doing a different video shoot, so I had a black wig upstairs in my house. So I wasn't a Manson styled wig, but I was able to kind of
pull it
on,
off.
and then I think I stuck on some makeup. Didn't really know how to put makeup on in that way, but I just stuck some on, threw some black stuff under my eyes, and just trying to get just what it looked like. And like, okay, this could work. And I started buying all the gear that I would need, the different corsets, the bandages, the pantyhose, the jock straps, and stuff like that. And then, messing with the makeup, I got the right hair for it and stuff. And then so I thought the look came together pretty good. And it took some refinement, but it was really like, yeah, how are you going to act in this where you don't look like some guy who's dressed like an idiot kind of standing there? And so I think I messed around with it in my living room a little bit, kind of messed around in the rehearsal room, kind of moving around, thinking about what I do, but I think it wasn't until the first show we were actually on stage where I'm like, what am I going to do? And it kind of all came together. I mean, I'm still tweaking it, sometimes things will happen. If an amp blows up, you can't stand on stage looking like an idiot in that outfit, waiting for the guitarist to hit the amp. You better be interacting with the crowd, insulting them, walking around, doing something, just because it's not going to look right if you break that character. You kind of have to be that, like, weird evil zombie the whole time.
Yeah, the reason I'm bringing up the look is because, as we're talking, I'm looking on your Facebook page, and I got to say, I'm looking at the photos, and, you really look like, you got the look down to me. If I didn't know any better, I'd think I was looking at the real, Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, I think I bought clothes to, kind of replicate the Antichrist Superstar era and the Hollywood era at the same time. So before we ever played our first show, I kind of already had 2 different eras, like ready to go. And so we did, we alternate between those, for the first year or so. And then we said, well, we're not really doing the glam, era, and almost no one, I don't know if I've ever seen a tribute band who does the Mechanical Animal era.
Uh-huh.
So, I got like the red hair and I got the feathers and the full body stocking and just, kind of replicate like the Rock is Dead video. So, it's like, fans never really know what era we're going to be until they show up at the show. And, we could be doing the glam look, we could be doing the goth look, and if it's a long enough show or if there's a good era from between, sometimes I'll split between. So I'll leave while they're doing a solo or something, I'll come back in a completely different era, which I think people like, if they're true fans.
Yeah, now let me ask you about the clothing, because, like we said, there's all different eras. There's a glammy era, there's kind of what I call the rock star era, where, he dresses up like a typical rock star in leather, and then there's, you see photos of him where he's kind of in what you call a cross-dresser, or trying to wear like pantyhose, like you said, and stuff. How do you feel when you wear that type of outfit on stage? Like, did that take some getting used to?
Not really. It takes a while to put it all on.
Uh-huh.
The makeup and the gear. It's not that different from, I'm sure, if a guy was in a Kiss tribute band or something. That it's a lot of effort. That you might work all day. You come home and you realize, oh, Friday night, but I have a show in like 2 or 3 hours I got to leave for. And you just, it's like, you don't. Sometimes you're not always in the mood to put all the makeup on and go get out all the gear and like wriggle in the pantyhose, put the little garters on and stuff like that. And it is funny where there's been a bunch of times where I'm just not in the mood, but I'm just doing the makeup and not in the mood and putting everything on, and then it's all sweaty and like the stuff, your hair sticking to the makeup on the drive over, and then there's that thought of like, okay, great, I'm getting really good time and really like excited because of it. So now I'm just like it's like a process. Instead of just sitting home and watching TV for an hour before that's like that process of getting ready.
Yeah, and the cool thing is with Manson too, besides the different eras, is he has, like you said, he has many different looks. So you can go out there looking however you want, having a different look each time if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, but we never do like just leather jacket and leather pants.
Yeah.
It's always the stockings, like the corset or the feathers or something like that. So no matter what show it is, it's never like the toned down version.
Now, obviously, you're the main guy that everybody's looking up on stage. But how important of a role does the rest of the band play? I mean, do you feel that they're equally as important to the show you put on?
Oh, definitely, because Kent is our guitar player. He does dim sum. He's not a fan of John 5, who's Marilyn's probably most famous guitarist. He likes dim sum, who was the Antichrist superstar guitarist. So he's got the right guitar for Zim, and he's got the right outfit and stuff. And he's just he's a really good guitarist, well-rounded guitarist. And so I think just having someone with that kind of skill, it's like he can use the whammy bar to milk things or make things sound evil. It's like there's never that part of like awkward silence because he knows what he's doing. And then Anthony's on the bass, and he looks he's got the whole Twiggy look, and he's got a bunch of different looks like that. He's also pretty irreverent. He's kind of fucking around on stage the way Twiggy would. And then Mike's our drummer, who keeps us totally on track. So yeah, I mean, I think I can be like flopping around on stage or being crazy because I don't have to worry about the music not being solid behind us. And if we do have a part where something's coming off the rails, like there's an amp problem, there's a lighting problem, everybody in the band has played enough shows to just be able to roll with it and not like panic or like have the song fall apart.
And I see that you guys have done some shows with like a Rob Zombie tribute, and you have one coming up I think this Friday with Faith No More tribute. So what other kind of bands do you guys do shows for? I mean, do you find that Manson can do shows with a lot of different tribute bands?
Yeah, and it's like we don't. I mean, we have nothing against playing with all the different tribute bands that we play with. It's great, especially like when we're playing with tribute bands to bands that I'm a real fan of, like Judas Priest or something, or Kiss. But generally, we can we play we play in the Valley a lot, where we're like the only it's just a bunch of regular rock bands, and we come on, and that usually goes really well. If we're playing with a whole night of tribute, like with Alice Cooper and Sabbath and all that, like we've done at the House of Blues, that goes off. And then of course, stylistically, Rob Zombie thing's great. Yeah, we're playing with Zombie Wood. We're playing with them this week. It's probably gonna be gone by the time this interview goes up, but it's Friday at Fly Bar. But then we're playing with them again we're playing with them in Corona on April 3rd. And then we're playing with them again in July in San Diego. So we never played with them before. We played with different zombie tributes, but those guys are really cool. So we're looking forward to playing with them. Rocco's in the band. I saw on your website interviewed him with his Kiss band. Yeah,
I mean, I was just going to bring that up. But he's just a totally amazing, talented guy. I have a lot of respect for him. I mean, he's actually like in two different Kiss tributes, and then he does Rob Zombie. I mean, he's amazing. I've seen him perform as Gene Simmons. In his band Coed Kiss, and he just really rocked the house that night. But so there's a guy that can do Zombie and Gene Simmons. I mean, so that just shows you the level of talent that guy has.
Yeah, his guitarist sent me an email saying, "Hey, would you be interested in singing, for Rob Zombie tribute?" And I don't know if I kind of was like, because I'm not the hugest Rob Zombie fan. I mean, Rob Zombie, that stuff's fine, but I'm not as big a fan of that as I am some other bands. But then I think I finally got back to him and I said, I might be willing to check it out. Well, where do you guys rehearse and when? And he's like, oh, it's cool, dude. Rocco can do it now. Okay, cool. We'll play shows together.
Yeah, the interesting thing, you bring up Rob Zombie because, and John 5 because, interesting thing to me is like you're saying earlier, John 5's played with both bands, and I've seen him in some recent interviews where like even he was on that metal show, and they had some showdown where who puts on a better rock show, Rob Zombie or Marilyn Manson, and being a guy that's played with both bands, I expect him to say something about that's hard for me having with both bands, but he says hands down Rob Zombie. So I don't know what the if him and Manson had a fall. It's just kind of interesting that Manson was one of the first guys that gave him a break, and it seems like he's more dedicated to what he's doing now.
Yeah, well, I saw Rob Zombie play with Alice Cooper on a double bill, and I also saw Manson play with Alice Cooper on a double bill. And Rob blew away both Alice and Manson in terms of the amount of money he spent on pyro and TV screens and giant robots and all that kind of stuff. And so, Alice went on first, and he had barely anything, and Rob went on, and he had just a ton of stage stuff. But to me, like, Rob's stuff is like that kind of kooky 50s spooky stuff.
Yeah.
And, compared to, like, it doesn't hold a candle like Antichrist Superstar era Manson, where it just had that evil church weird thing. So I think Rob does a pretty cool show, but I would say even if, like, Antichrist Superstar era was, half the budget or a bit of the budget, it just was really dialed in back then. But yeah, I don't think Manson's current show holds a candle to Rob's current show.
Yeah, and I got respect for all those guys, but I got to say that last time I seen Alice Cooper was when Ronnie James Dio first got back with Black Sabbath. They were calling it Heaven and Hell, and they did a tour of Heaven and Hell, which was Black Sabbath, Alice Cooper, and Queensryche, when Jeff Tate was still in the band. And Alice, at the time was, for being in his 60s or something, I got to say, still, for even a stripped down show, puts on a dynamite show. He's got all the pranks he does still, and just both songs are timeless. So that's one thing I got to say about Alice. He's the original,
Yeah, and we played with I got my friend Larry is Alice in Cooperland, and there's another guy named Nick who's the Alice in a tribute band called Nightmare. So both of them when the Manson band does builds with them, like we played with both of them at House of Blues, and I think we played with Alice in Cooperland in Las Vegas also, and they just like Alice, they bring me on stage to sing I'm 18 with them.
Yeah.
And that's really cool because that's what Alice and Manson did the whole tour when they were co-headlining. And so I remember one time, I think it was at House of Blues, we already played, and Alice in Cooperland was on, and I was just beating the crowd, talking to my friends, having a beer, and Larry was on stage singing, and he's like, I gotta get out of here. The king has got me drinking beer. And I was like, oh, I think that was a call. So I said to hold on to everybody, ran backstage and got up there to sing the final verse and chorus with him.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up, Larry, because he's another interesting guy that I had the privilege of interviewing, and just another huge talent in the sense that, like you said, he does Alice Cooper and Land, and then he also is a drummer, I know, for he has a Motley Crue tribute band, Crew, and then I think he's also the drummer now in Appetite for Destruction, which is a Guns N' Roses tribute. And another thing I really love about the tribute scene is, as opposed to like if you're doing original music, tribute scene is almost like a kinship among the tribute bands, a real fraternity, if you will. And Larry recently suffered some heart trouble, had to have some kind of heart operation, and recently a lot of the tribute bands got together down here in Long Beach, and they had put on a show for Larry called Larry Palooza, and they helped him raise money to pay his medical bills. I just thought, that is ultimate tribute right there,
Yeah, there's a great brotherhood with the tribute scene, and I was always a fan of, I love metal. I really love metal, so I'd go see, Just Like Priest, or the Judas Priest tribute, or, a Kiss tribute, or, maybe AC/DC, or, Metallica and stuff, but, the only tribute band I was in for a long, I was in both a Ramones and a Sex Pistols one.
Oh, wow.
So we were doing, the punk tribute thing, but it didn't really go with any of these metal tributes, so I was kind of, on the fringes. I didn't know any of those people, and Facebook wasn't, a thing then and stuff, but once you start doing these metal tributes, you start meeting all these people. You know who the girls in Dia are, the guys in True to Crew, or the guys from Damage Inc. and stuff. And a lot of those guys live in Orange County or Long Beach. They're kind of spread out, and I know, a lot of them that live real near each other. They're you can tell they're, just a very tight brotherhood. Kind of on the fringes of that, where we know people's names, we always say hi. I'm not really going to barbecues with them yet and stuff, but it's a cool thing. I think it's a cool thing. It's a different scene, compared to people who might be in the the hipster thing in Silver Lake or something like that, So this is for the nearing 40 or over 40 crowd, there's definitely still a scene to be involved in.
And now, let me ask you, what is your favorite Manson album of all time?
I think I'd have to go with Antichrist Superstar, just because it's got that pureness, like where, first off, that one, I don't know how you can expect to get that successful when you're a record that dissonant and mean and evil. I mean, it's one thing to go, fuck it, we're going to do it, but it's another thing that, I think that album hit number 3 or something, and Beautiful People is huge, and that was like, he's a pretty new artist, and he was already doing like a, large theater tour with a huge production and stuff, and it just was like, it's the first everybody had seen of it, and it was just like, he's coming, everything, like, you watch videos of that tour, he's just really selling it, you did not believe it for a second, and then by the time he did Hollywood, which was a couple years later, he was kind of back into that kind of, goth look. It was good, but it was just a little bit more marketed to like unaffected teens more explicitly. So I'd have to say Antichrist, and there's just a lot of great tunes on Antichrist.
And do you think part of the reason there's such a demand for what you're doing right now is because even though Manson still tours and puts out new music, he's kind of scaled it back and isn't touring as much as he was, even just a few years ago?
Yeah, no, not necessarily. I think that's a weird thing that people, like a lot of people have said, people have different beefs with tribute bands, but one of the things that some people say, which is interesting, is that they say it's okay to be a tribute band to some band that doesn't exist, like Led Zeppelin, but it's bullshit to be a tribute band if the band still exists. And I don't agree with that, because first off, AC/DC still exists, but how often do they come around? Once every 6 years? What if you want to see AC/DC twice a year? You go find a great tribute band like Bonfire, you can see them, or you can't see the Bond version anymore. So I don't have a problem with that. And then same thing with Manson. He's like, even if he's still around, he might not always be in LA if you want to see us in LA, and he's probably not going to charge $10 like we are to get in the door.
Yeah, I mean, plus you take a band like AC/DC that they've been going at it for 40 years, and they just put out a great new album, but then again, it's not exactly the same thing as one of the founding brothers is fallen ill, and somebody else has stepped in his place, so it's not exactly the same band that it's been all these years.
Yeah, and for $160, you're going to see the real Angus and the real Brian Johnson and stuff, and you're going to see a giant stage and probably the real cannons blowing your face off and stuff. But if you go see Bonfire, it's going to cost you $10 or $5 or what, and you're going to see you squint your eyes and it's like AC/DC back when they were in their mid-20s is what it's going to look like and stuff. And so I get that some people, I'm not saying anybody has to like tribute bands. I don't care if they do or not, but I can see, there is that appeal where, sometimes people don't want to see, the 65-year-old version of what they liked when they were, young. They kind of want to see the approximation of that. And so the Manson thing, I'm not saying, I mean, we didn't write any songs. We didn't come up with the look. The real Manson did. So all props to him. But like I said, I haven't been a fan of his stuff since '04. All that stuff up to the Golden Age I really liked, and then I didn't like the stuff after that.
Yeah, and then
we're putting on the show that I would want to see if I was, if I was in the crowd. The classic Manson kind of vibe.
I love you brought that up because I've heard like Paul and Gene from Kiss say that we were once in the audience, we're the guys that were in the audience, we jumped up on stage and we put together a kind of band that we want to put together, and if you have that attitude, then and you're having fun up on stage and you're enjoying as much as the audience, the show's going to be that much better because you're doing it from the heart.
Yeah, totally, and I think I think the whole band. I'd say I'm the biggest Manson fan. Mike, the drummer's a pretty big fan. I wouldn't say Anthony and Ken, the bassist and the guitarist, are the biggest fans, but I think they, I know they're really into like putting the outfits on. No one in the band is like, can we just not do the outfits? Can we just bring a smaller part of gear? I mean, they're all committed to like, if we're going to do this, let's do it right. Let's have, but not just because of the professionalism, but just because it's fun. It's fun to like, try to exceed people's expectations, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and what's interesting is like, I interviewed one of the girls from Princeton. She was telling me that, she said, well, the interesting thing is I wasn't really a Kiss fan. I became more of a Kiss fan after I got into the band and started paying tribute to Kiss. I had to learn the music, and I became more of a fan that way.
Yeah, totally. I'd say the same thing with Manson. There's songs that I wasn't that huge a fan of, like Little Horn, or I don't know. I usually pick them, so if I pick them, I'm not a fan of them. But there's a couple that the other guys have picked that I was like, no, let's not do that one. And then now that we do it, I like it. So I can see that. That can happen with anything. If you really, taking the time to dissect it and copy it and do it yourself and perform it, you're probably gonna see the qualities that you might not notice when it's just kind of playing in the background.
Yeah, I hope you stick with the Manson thing, because I do think it's kind of interesting, like you said, that there's a ton of them over like in Italy and Europe, not so much here in the U.S. There's a couple that have popped up I've seen, but a lot of times with these tribute bands you have to have a little niche, and I think the fact that there's not 100 other Marilyn Manson tributes out here in Southern California, that's definitely one thing you got going for you. We were talking about AC/DC earlier, and one thing I've noticed about the AC/DC tributes that's kind of interesting. I've interviewed quite a few AC/DC tributes, and a lot of there seems to be a huge love for AC/DC, whatever it is, because whenever we do these interviews with the various AC/DC tributes, the numbers are pretty good. People downloading the interviews and stuff. But what I found is most AC/DC tributes, they either are doing the Bond era, like you said, or a Brian Johnson era, because these are two different singers that sound nothing alike. There's this one guy in Florida, he does AC/DC tribute, it's called Shot Down in Flames, and he's got a guy that comes out for half of his show and does Bond, and then he goes backstage and they bring out a Brian Johnson guy that finishes up the show. So
That's pretty cool.
So that's a pretty cool thing right there. But that's the thing with most AC/DC tributes, they either doing the Bond era or the Brian Johnson era.
Yeah, we had a Sex Pistols tribute band called God Save the Sex Pistols, and Ken, who's the guitarist in the Manson band, he was basically I was Sid Vicious, so I was the bassist in the Sex Pistols band.
Yeah.
But he was Glenn Matlock, so he was the other bassist. So he would start the show until he got fired, and then he would have to leave the stage, and then I, as Sid Vicious, would take over bass duties for the rest of the set. So a little bit of a similar thing.
Wow, that's kind of cool. And, another thing I love about these tribute bands, Stevie, is I remember first time I seen this Guns N' Roses tribute called Hollywood Roses. The singer, he looks dead like Axl Rose from 1987. The rest of the band, they look like the guys they're portraying. It sounds like Appetite for Destruction era, Guns N' Roses. I had to pinch myself for a minute. I almost thought I was at a real Guns N' Roses show from back in the day. But the thing of it is, that's probably as close as I'm ever going to get to seeing Axl and Slash play on stage again. But these guys were that good that it kind of took me back to the first time I heard Guns N' Roses. That's how good they were.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind checking them out. I used to play, I think the drummer in the band, if he's still doing it, his name's Justin. I used to play in a band with him, so he mentioned he was in that, and I want to check it out.
Well,
I think you're absolutely right. It's like, to me, I don't, what Axl's doing right now, that's not Guns N' Roses. I mean, it kind of is, but Axl's, Axl's a little stockier than he used to be, and Slash isn't there, and Izzy's not there. It's like, I know some people think that that's the only true Guns N' Roses, but I'm like you. I'd rather kind of see an approximation of, skinny Axl and skinny Slash, rocking out together than whatever, the real Axl's doing right now.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the singer in Hollywood Rose is what people fail to realize about tribute bands is a lot of times it could be the back way to have a do your own original thing too, because the singer Colby, he's got an original band called Dope Snake. They put out original music, but and eventually because of the Guns N' Roses tribute, when Steven Adler first put his band Adler's Appetite together, he was one of the singers in that, and so this guy's had a lot of opportunities because of his tribute band, and he kind of got his own original music out there through doing the tribute thing.
Well, that's an excellent point. I think, and one of the, like I said, I don't really care if people like tribute bands or not. There's no skin off my nose if they don't like it. And I think some people get a little pissy where they're like, tribute bands shouldn't exist. I mean, because they're taking away from a scene. But my main thing is that the only thing that kind of irritates me is that I'm standing there in a full face of makeup or whatever, and then someone just walks over and they go, this is good what you're doing, but I just wish you do you would do your own music, and it gets annoying because I'm like, what, I do my own music. I've got plenty of bands, original bands I've been in. So is every person that's in this tribute band. So it's just a strange thing where people have creative person, because first off, it's, it's so easy to be in a tribute band. It's like you try creating all that stuff if you're, if you haven't, and then secondly, there's nothing to say that you can't have, 1 foot in both worlds. You can do you're doing original music and you're doing your tribute.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, like, I agree with you that if you don't like it, you don't have to go see it. But I will say this: I don't think it's killing the scene. I think it's helping to keep the scene alive, if you will. Because I mean, I remember back in the early '90s when everybody's saying rock is dead and grunge kind of took over. What I hated about that was it's not so much that grunge took over, that people allowed themselves to become spoon-fed. Like, well, okay, MTV's just playing grunge music now, so I'm just going to throw out all my Motley Crue albums. I don't like Motley Crue anymore because that's not what's popular anymore. To me, if a song is good or an album is good, if it was good 20 years ago when it came out, you should be in love with it just as much as ever, if you're a true fan. I don't think just because, Motley Crue's not as popular as they once were, so I'm going to get rid of all my that's the thing I hate. And I'll say this to you, Stevie. I'm not a musician, so I'm creative in other aspects, but in other areas. But I'm not a musician. I can't sing. I can't strum a guitar. So first of all, any guy that can get up on as a guest to get up on stage, put on a guitar, sing his ass off, I have a certain level of respect for it, because that's something I can't do. So the fact that you can do, even get up there and do that, I have a certain level of respect. And then again, I look at another reason I started doing these interviews, because after going to several of these tribute shows, I've seen all the hard work and dedication goes into put on a show like what you put on, because I don't know necessarily that I could look as good portraying Marilyn Manson as you do. I mean, that takes a certain level of talent.
Hey, not everyone can do it. You gotta,
and
gotta watch your carbs.
And
not you specifically. I don't even know what your build is like, but that is one good. I mean, it's, the Rammstein band. I'm not as stocky and buff as Till, singer of Rammstein, but the Manson band, I kind of have the right build for it. So another plus.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact that you can even get to see, and I respect, like I said, I have a lot more respect for kind of show what you guys put on. I always call it rock theater, like I said, because you could easily get up there just in your jeans and t-shirt and do the Manson songs, but it would not have the same appeal, would not have the same effect, if you will.
Totally. Yeah, I've never taken so many photos before and after a show as in the Manson band. I don't let it go to my head, and I'll tell you why. Because, I'll be taking tons and tons of photos. People are just, all the girls, they want a picture and all that. And so, normally, you might be like, wow, everyone really loves me. This is great. I'm marvelous. But I always keep, like, one thing I think about is that, those cartoon characters on Hollywood Boulevard, like Spider-Man and the Hulk and stuff. And I go, I'm not that far removed from those dudes who are, like, charging $1 on Hollywood Boulevard so you can, like, put your arm around the Hulk and take a photo. So,
does it ever feel?
Does anybody not think I'm still grounded with all the tribute fame that it's not going to my head that much?
Does it ever puzzle you though? Like you said, you were doing the original music thing for a while, and it's pretty good what you were doing, I thought. But like you're saying, it's a lot harder to get people to come check it out or buy what you're selling. Is it ever surprise you though how much easier it is doing the tribute thing? Like the fact that you get on all this love because you're portraying Marilyn Manson?
Well, let's just say people have to know what they want to do. You got to be true to yourself. And what I've decided right now, what I really like doing is performing. I really like performing, and I like performing to, I like performing to a very engaged audience. So that's one of the reasons I really like to do the Manson thing. Is that right now where my head is at, I'm not that hot on being in the recording studio, or right now I'm not doing a lot of songwriting, but I'm really into like live performance. So this is the kind of band where we're playing 3 times a month, maybe more, and we've got great crowds in all different cities, wherever we're going, all over LA or maybe outside of it, and it's just a lot of fun right now. So it's kind of where my head's at.
And let me ask you, Stevie. Are you a full-time musician, or are you would you consider yourself a working musician in that, like a lot of these guys, you have a day job in addition to what you do as a performer?
Yeah, I would say, I have a day job, but it's some, the best thing about it is that you don't have to rely on music to get your rent paid, which is pretty much the best thing, because it takes so much of the pressure off. I know a lot of guys where if you're trying to make music pay for all your bills, you're going to be hustling all the time, and it's probably going to be taking a lot of fun out of you. If pretty much, hey, any money that comes in is great, but if it doesn't, that's fine too. It keeps it a lot of fun, and music industry sucks right now to try to be making all your money from. So,
yeah.
So that's one of my favorite things about it is that I don't have to look for it to be my primary source of income.
And if you don't mind me asking, how do you guys make the bulk of your money? Is it through ticket sales? 'Cause I know a lot of times the promoter's got to get his share first, but you guys make pretty good money, or is most of it made through the ticket sales, or do you ever do what's called pay to play?
No, we never do that. We like with my Ramones band, we've been doing it 15 years, pretty well established. So we don't do anything that's not a guarantee. And then which is we like to promote. We want to make sure our fans know about the show, but we don't do anything where we don't know in advance how much we're going to make. And the Manson band is most of the shows we're doing is the same thing, where we know what we're doing. If we're going to be driving to Pomona or Riverside, we know it's not we're hoping that 25 people show up at $10 a head and we get 30% of that after the first 15 people paid. We know what the payoff at the end of the night is going to be, and that's cool. But one of the great things about the dudes in this band is that we're not motivated,
by money.
Totally by money.
Yeah.
We really want to have a great time. And if there's a show that maybe the money's not going to be there, it's not going to be great, but the show's going to really go off, it's going to be super fun. I don't think anybody in the band is going to be turning it down, and I really appreciate the whole band for that, because it's too fun to sit at home just because the exact amount of money you wanted wasn't correct. And I think there's tribute bands that will play very rarely because they don't feel like they're being taken care of. They say, hey, we're bringing a top flight show, and we deserve whatever large amount, and they're going to sit home, they're going to sit back until they get that amount. And there are tribute bands that I know of that play once a year, or maybe not even that much, because people aren't hitting their minimum. Mm-hmm. And that's not us. We like to play a lot. We don't have we don't command the highest fees in the business, but we pretty much we get enough to make it worth our while, and we all love doing it. So we don't want to turn down a great show.
So let me ask.
Don't lowball us stuff. You didn't hear that.
So let me ask you, these guys that are in the band, are these guys you've known for years, or are these guys that came down and auditioned?
Yeah, Ben's I've known for years. I met him. It's funny. I met him for he was a friend of the other guy in the Sex Pistols band, so we started working together because of the Sex Pistols tribute. But we remembered that we'd both been in a band together at least for a couple of rehearsals, 10 years earlier. We played together for 5 times. You go, hey, were you that weird guy who came to this audition? And so that was kind of funny. And then Kent and Anthony have known each other for decades because they're both roadies for Poison and LA Guns back in the day, and roommates and stuff like that. And Mike, our drummer, he's our new drummer. We've only known him for maybe 6 months, 7 months. So yeah, kind of a good mix.
Okay, so you guys have only had one change in the lineup since the inception of the band, huh?
Let me think. We've had 3 drummers.
Uh-huh.
And then we had a female backing singer and dancer. But we're thinking about getting another one. We're not sure.
Huh.
But yeah, me, Anthony, and Kent, the guitarist, bassist, and myself have all been the same.
That's kind of interesting, almost Spinal Tap-like fact that you guys have gone through 3 drummers. Was it just a matter of is just finding the right guy with the right drum sound?
Our first drummer worked in the film industry, so
okay.
He wasn't always available, and so we had a second guy who was a bit of a fill-in.
Uh-huh.
And then the film industry guy said, you know what, I've got a new job that's going to keep me busy, so we had to get our current drummer Mike, but both the original drummer Johnny and Mike are both solid as hell, so it was a very simple transition, if you will.
And then as far as this, what'll be your deciding factor as far as if you added another female backup singer? Do you think it's something that will add to the show? Do you think it'd be something distracting as far as people will be paying attention to a backup singer more?
I don't think so. I think it adds to the we've had people who I can tell, like, you know, one of their favorite parts of the band, they say, oh, you know, she really brought to the debauchery and that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then there have been other people that say, hey, Manson didn't have that, even though at times he did. But, and, you know, the few people keep things simpler, but I always want to do a top flight show. You know, I don't want to, you know, if we can add something to it to make the show even more exciting and fun for everybody, I want to do it. Yeah,
and you know, earlier I mentioned, you know, Manson is one of these characters that you know, people either really love him or they really hate him. He's one of those you know, controversial figures. You ever get people, even just on your Facebook page or after one of your shows, people that really, you know, think you're that you're Marilyn Manson, or you ever get any like snitty remarks on your Facebook page?
No, not really. But the one thing we get a remark of is that people will be at the show and they probably found out we're playing and they're like, "Oh, great, stupid Marilyn Manson and all that." And we get this comment a lot where they say, "You know what? I don't like Marilyn Manson, but I like you guys. You guys are like, that was freaking awesome. I really like that." And what I don't take that we're better than Manson. I have a feeling that these guys saw or heard something about Marilyn Manson, you know, a long time ago and decided they didn't like him. But had they been at the real Marilyn Manson show from back in the day, they would have been a convert too. I think there's people who are like, you know, into Metallica or Judas Priest or something that think, you know, they see this guy in corsets and stockings and they're like, oh, I don't like that. That's not my thing. But then there's a bunch of the songs, especially the heavy songs and stuff, that they're like, oh shit, I guess I do like this. You know?
Well, you know, I think that's the ultimate compliment in the sense that I think it's true what you were saying earlier about, you know, last couple of tours, Manson's kind of scaled, you know, the glam and the rock star stuff down, but and I think that's, you know, ultimate compliment in the sense that you know, you're putting on the show, the great rock show from back in the day.
Yeah. Well, why not?
Yeah. Well, you know, Stevie, I could talk to you all day. It's been, I can't believe it's been over almost an hour since we started the conversation. I've really enjoyed talking to you. The last thing I want to ask before I let you go is I see you guys have a show coming up with the Faith No More tribute. Talk a little bit about that show, because that's new. I've never seen a Faith No More tribute in Varia.
Yeah, me either. I think it's probably their second or third show. And that Nick, who is the lead singer of a Nine Inch Nails tribute, which unbelievably we've never played with, but we probably will. He's in the Faith No More tribute band.
Wow.
So that'll be cool to check out. And that's at the Sly Bar. Everybody's listening to this will have missed it because it's 2 days from now. But
okay.
But we got plenty more coming up. We've got Corona on April 3rd. That's a Friday.
Yeah.
And then we've got Old Town Pub in Pasadena on April 25th. And then you're in Long Beach, right, Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like we're locking in Gaslamp for June 18th. So that could be a fun one as well.
I'll have to check that out. Do you know who else is going to be on the bill that night?
I don't think there's going to be other tribute bands. I think it's like a metal fest.
Oh, cool.
Something like that, and we're going to be the last band on the bill.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'd have to definitely come in and hang out and say hello. Because in fact, that's right down the street from my house, literally like 2 miles away. So that's totally cool. Like I said, I've enjoyed talking to you. Before I let you go, Stevie, is there anything else you'd like to say to all your fans out there?